So this is reminder 4,492 that you do not own your video games. You do not own your games, even on Steam. Steam is delisting adult video games, or video games they consider to be too adult or too spicy for the platform. And we're going to talk about this because this caught a lot of people off guard. And apparently they're blaming the payment processors. They're blaming Visa and MasterCard. And this is not the first time we've seen this. Visa and MasterCard stuck their noses into Patreon's business, or at least Patreon blamed them, right? They blamed Visa and MasterCard. They blamed PayPal that they were going to crack down on not just explicit content, but they were going to crack down on wrong thinkers as well. Remember, during the height of cancel culture, 2018 through 2020, it seemed like anybody who had any right-wing takes were banned or booted from Patreon and other places, and they'd be like, oh, that's because Visa and MasterCard don't want that content on here. Now, if it's actual Yahtzee content or actual content calling for violence against people, then yeah, I do agree with that. Like, I don't want to be responsible for bankrolling that. But you know, we saw that in the case of Patreon, it was unevenly enforced. They got rid of Sargon, right? But then they had other people on the platform that were literally calling for violence against people, and that was okay, right? So it's like, if you're going to do something like that, you got to evenly enforce it. But anyway, let's talk about Steam and how it's affecting Steam. And another reason why I think we need physical offline games. Now, most of these games I'm not going to be into. So I've seen some very, very weird stuff on Steam. I've come across it. Yeah, there's some strange games. Let's put it that way. There's some strange games with a very niche appeal. A lot of them getting delisted, but yeah. So it starts with this. Where does it end? I guess that's where I'm going with it. Where does this end? Do they start to police all the content on Steam if the game is a little too spicy for their takes? Not just like, oh, this is a degenerate game, Incest Simulator 5000 or whatever, but like, is it, you know, if it's like, oh yeah, we think that character looks like she might be under 18, you can't put that game up or something. You know what I'm saying? Because we had this happen in manga too. There are people out there trying to say that the Grok AI companion Annie is underage. I'm like, have you seen her rack? No, I don't think she's underage, and she's a computer generated image. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Go to news.clownshishtv.com for more podcasts and news. This is coming from PC Gamer, so I'm going to try to follow along, make sense of this. Steam's got a new rule that puts the kibosh on certain kinds of adult-only content that make Visa and MasterCard sad. So the rule seemingly coincides with a large number of adult games being delisted from the platform. Okay, reminder, you don't own your games. Devs are biting their nails over a new Steam rule that prohibits, in painfully vague terms, certain kinds of content on its platform. The new rule, seemingly introduced incredibly recently, and definitely introduced since Wayback Machine did a snapshot of Steam. The Steam rules on April 14th forbids content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers. In other words, Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal have to be kept happy or sling your hook. How do you do that? Valve doesn't say, only knowing that particular care should be taken with certain kinds of adult-only content. No elaboration is offered as to what kinds of adult-only content that means, leaving not safe for work devs groping in the dark, to appease payment processors. So PC Gamer, the journalist here, this is Joshua Wolins, has reached out for clarification. While we wait, maybe we can connect some dots. As spotted by Steam DB on Blue Sky, of course, it's on Blue Sky. The new rule coincides with the sudden removal of a significant number of incest-themed adult games from Steam's storefront. All right, let's go look at this original post here. Incest-themed games. Yeah, well, I'm not going to buy those. I'm just saying that doesn't mean that. Again, this is a slippery slope. If you start banning all this content and you start, kowtowing to the payment processors, then they're going to start creeping that up. a little bit, right? If you let the payment processors dictate what content can be on your platform. I mean, if Steam said, hey, we don't want these kind of games on our platform, that's one thing. But this is the payment processors, and they pulled this shit with Patreon too. Again, Patreon, blame them. I think that they actually had a sensitivity czar at Patreon. She used to work for PayPal. I think she got gone, but they chased a lot of people off the platform. And she was there to make sure everybody said the right things and didn't offend people and didn't put any dirty stuff up. And they were even like, Patreon was even like, yeah, we need to go into your Google Drive and see what kind of artwork you're producing to see if we want to bankroll you. If you say something on another platform, as in the case of Sargon, if I remember the story correctly, it's been a few years, but he was on another platform. He used the N-word, and he was using it as I guess saying, why, or saying you shouldn't use it. It was taken out of context. Whatever he did, it was taken out of context on another platform, on somebody else's podcast. And people use that as a gotcha to get him banned from Patreon. He was making like 12 or 20 grand a month on Patreon, some ridiculous amount of money for that. And they got him banned. And that was a huge part of his income. And this is going to be misused. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have games that people don't like for whatever reason, and they're going to try to find a reason to get rid of them. I can think of a few games off the top of my head. They'll probably get gone, or people will try to get them gone using this rule. And what they'll do now is they'll go to Visa, MasterCard and be like, hey, Steam didn't delist this game on their own. Hey, Visa, MasterCard, we think this game is wrong. You need to delist it now. And I could totally see people doing that, because people on the internet, these terminally online people, like, that is literally why they get up in the morning. They get up in the morning looking for people to cancel. They get up in the morning looking to cause problems for people, to get websites taken down, YouTube channels taken down, to get people canceled from conventions, because they literally have nothing else going on in their lives except prowling for meat, because it gives them a feeling of power, right? But they said the new rule coincides with the sudden removal of games. Okay, anyone who had any number of the, again, I don't own any of these games, so it doesn't affect me, but anyone who had any number of the interactive sex or sex adventure games on their wish list should have bought them sooner. They've been yoinked. I've reached out to the dev behind some of these games to ask if they've had any communication from Valve. I'll update if I hear back. So I guess you get to keep them offline. It said it would seem that incest is one of the themes that falls under Valve's payment processor's new rubric of verboten games. But there's a wrinkle. There are still some themed games like that for purchase on the platform, including one from the same interactive sex series that was hit hard in the removals noted by Steam. So they're being delisted. Yeah. So apparently you can still get that. You can still play them, but they're being delisted. They don't want to sell this stuff anymore. It said fears abound that Steam is in for the kind of turmoil that struck OnlyFans back in 2021, when the site, almost exclusively associated with sex work, said pressure from banks was forcing them to ban pornography on the platform. The policy was eventually walked back after an outcry. Actually, yeah, probably an outcry from the CEO, from the CFO, from the accountants, like, oh my God, we're not going to make any money. But it was just one more thing that makes trying to make a living from sex work uniquely precarious. So much I could say on this. I'm not going to. I don't want to look like a fuddy-duddy, but there's so much I could say on this. It's not just OnlyFans. It's come under the eye of Sauron for this kind of stuff. Tumblr banned porn on the platform. Credit card companies are anti-porn. Patreon has initiated crackdowns on certain kinds of not safe for work content at the behest of payment processors. Processor hostility to adult content has heightened in the wake of the 2020 scandal, where popular adult site Pornhub was hosting revenge porn and underage stuff, which is no. And MasterCard and Visa terminated service on the site. Now, it's funny, they're not bringing up other people that were banned. Again, they're bringing up all the sex stuff, like, oh, the poor sex workers, those poor hookers. No, they're not bringing up all the people who had the wrong political opinions who also got banned. Like I said, this is where I'm at with it. Like, I don't agree with this stuff. I don't buy this stuff, right? You do you, boo, but it's definitely not my thing. That being said, it is a slippery slope, because if you give the banks the power to determine what content is on your platform, they're going to keep moving the goalpost. And eventually, people are going to put outside forces are going to put pressure on the banks to make sure that they don't take payments for, any activity that the outside forces don't want them to. Remember the whole trucker situation in Canada? That got memory hold, didn't it? Remember the trucker situation? Didn't the banks cut off payments to these truckers in Canada at the border because they're mad about the vaccine mandates? And that got memory hold. Anything to do with the vaccine mandates got memory hold. It's so weird. It's like, oh, that never happened. And now they don't even sell those vaccines anymore. They don't even use them anymore. It's just like, oh yeah, whatever. Oopsie doopsie. But people had their lives destroyed over it by the banks. Valve does not want Steam users to suddenly find themselves unable to buy games using payment methods like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, meaning it's a lot easier to simply bow to their whims than stick up for adult game devs. The fact that Valve doesn't feature live performers in the adult games on the platform apparently bears little relevance. Yeah, that's the same argument with like manga too, and with anime. It's like, well, it's technically not a real person. So what's going to happen when we get into the uncanny valley of AI porn? What is going to happen then? Because they're not real people. Right, but they could use AI to simulate real people. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I mean, that's a whole like where do you draw the line on that? It's because it's clearly not real. But yeah, I said yeah, we don't miss the glut of incest theme games. I don't even go down that rabbit hole. On another darker hand, there's a not unreasonable fear that what begins this is my issue right here. What begins as a crackdown on porno shovelware could eventually spread out to target queer creators in games of all stripes. Well, not just queer creators, just any game that might have adult themes, or any game that might be done by someone who's on the wrong side of somebody else's political opinions, or somebody who maybe there are allegations against them that were unproven. And, we can't have their game in here. Maybe this person, we don't like them for whatever reason. We can't have their game in here. And yeah, these platforms do play favorites. I don't know if the platform itself plays favorites, but I think that we have gremlins at these different platforms that try to keep certain creators away from their money. And we ran into this just a couple of years ago. I'm not going to go into detail, but we had one particular platform that I am convinced, given the location of where it's at, that there were some people there that did not like us, even though I don't even consider us right wing. I'd consider myself kind of wherever Bill Maher is right now, like disgruntled liberal, old school liberal. But like we had a hard time getting some of our money from this one platform, and I am very convinced it was because there were people at the platform that really did not want us there. Not the even though they reached out to us, they wanted us to come to the platform, the higher ups, some of the worker bees did not want us there. And I could see that happening at like Steam, like, oh, well, this person, we don't like this person because they said this thing on Twitter and we took it to Blue Sky, and then Blue Sky said, you need to ban them. So I just like flipped the switch and whoopsie doopsie. What happened? I think this happens. I'm going to be honest. I think it happens with YouTube. I think it happens with other social media platforms. I think people suddenly find themselves delisted or downvoted or whatever because I think we have gremlins at the company, not the higher ups. Like the official policy may be that we don't do this, that, or whatever. But when you've got slacktivists, you've got activists working at the company, and it's so easy for them to just flip that switch and shadow ban somebody. Oh, I don't know what happened. Just, Jim's videos aren't getting traction like they used to. I think that 100% that is going on. And I could totally see this being another excuse. Like, I don't like this person, so I'm going to contact the bank, or we're going to, cause them problems. We're going to ban the game. And then by the time they figure it out, well, that window, like if they got a lot of attention for this game, that window to sell that game has passed because, that we took their game down. And, I think it's totally going to happen. I think it could be used against people. And it's not even about being queer or trans or whatever. It's not even about just making sex games. It could literally be for anything. And that's the double-edged sword of free speech. If you want free speech for yourself, then you have to allow other people to have free speech as well, even speech that you vehemently disagree with. I mean, them's the rules. It's just kind of the way it's supposed to work, right? If not, if you start cracking down on speech in any capacity, then it's only a matter of time until people tell you to shut up, that you're not allowed to speak your mind either. So, yeah, interesting. Everybody's kind of flipping out at, but it's, yeah, the angle they're taking is like, what about all the gay games? I'm like, well, it's not just that. But interesting stuff. We'll have to keep an eye on this and see what happens. But yeah, any digital platform, I think you really are playing with fire if this is your livelihood. Like if this is your livelihood, it's like, oh, I'm going to make adult games on Steam. It's like, well, it's a matter of time until somebody steps in and says, no, you can't do it. Just saying. Go wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later. For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.